Okay, so we are back to working with our clocks today. Last week we learned to tell time to the hour, and we learned to tell time to the half hour. Today we're going to talk about telling time and using a time pattern to help us. So, our math words today are a half hour pattern and an hour pattern. If you want to pause and turn open to page 573, you can do that now. And then I want you to take a look. We're going to talk about dance class time and swim class time. But first, I want to take a look at my analog clock in front of us. I actually did write A times from our book are the same times they talked about as dance class time. And our B times down here are our swim times from our book. But I want to talk about our time on our clock. So first, I'm going to start here on my analog clock. We know that when it's o'clock, that the minute hand is on the 12th, right? We learned last week that when the minute hand made it around to the 6th, our hour hand went halfway between the two numbers to show that the time was half past the hour. So we know that this right now is showing me that it's been 30 minutes since it was 12 o'clock. It is now 12:30. So I've made the time 12:30, and if you look at my A time, that shows me 12:30. Well, the next time they're showing us is 1 o'clock. So if I wanted to continue to move my minute hand and my hour hand on my clock, I'm going to take my minute hand and I'm going to move it so that it goes to the o'clock. It goes over to the 12. And my hour hand is on the 1. And it's showing me that it is 1 o'clock. The next time they want me to show on the analog clock is 1:30. To do 1:30, I know that I have to go back around to the 6. I was at the 6 first to show 12:30. I went all the way back up to the 12, halfway around again to show 1 o'clock. Now I want to show 1:30. So I want to take my minute hand and put it on the 6, and I want to take my hour hand and it's going to go halfway between the 1 and the 2 to show 1:30, that it's halfway. So when I did this pattern 12:30, when I did 12:30, then I did 1 o'clock, and then I moved again and I said, okay, here's 1:30. I'm moving my minute hand every half an hour. I'm moving it. So it's showing a half hour pattern. So when we take a look at our math book, dance classes are starting every half hour, 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30, show a half hour pattern. I'm going to look at our swim times. So I'm going to go back at the first swim time they gave us, which was 12 o'clock. So here I have 12 o'clock. To go to the next time that the swim class is being offered, it's 1 o'clock. To make 1 o'clock, I'm just moving my hour hand. My minute hand's staying, because really, if it's going to go from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, my minute hand's going to go all the way around and stop back on the 12, while my hour hand just moved from the 12 to the 1 to make 1 o'clock. It's going to do the same thing again to go a whole hour later to make 2 o'clock. It's going to go all the way around. It's going to stop at the 12, and the hour hand is going to go to the 2 to make 2 o'clock. So 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, my minutes really aren't changing. They're always staying at the 0 minute because it's on the o'clock. And the hour hand is the only one that's really moving up another number because it's showing me the next hour only. So this is the 1 hour pattern. So that's what we're going to talk about in our lesson today, is how we can tell the difference between a half hour pattern and an hour pattern. So let's look down at the bottom of page 573 together. So we're going to try to figure out which one of these times, number one, which has these digital times, and our analog clock, which is down here, which one is showing a half-hour pattern and which one is showing an hour pattern. So let's look at number one. I see 6:30, I see 7:30, I see 8:30. I'm seeing 30 minutes each time, which tells me that my minute hand is staying where the 30 is, which is on the 6. But my hour hand, right, that's going to move to the next number each time. So 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30, showing me that this is an hour pattern because my minute hand stayed on the 6 and my hour hand kept moving to show the 1 hour pattern. So go ahead and draw a line from number 1 to letter B to show that this is a 1 hour pattern. If we take a look at number 2, and here my analog clock is showing me my minute hand is on the 12, my hour hand is on the 1. So right away, I know that this is showing me 1 o'clock, right? But I'm going to take a look at my next time, right next to it. And I'm seeing that the minute hand this time moved, but it stopped at the 6. And the hour hand is between the 1 and the 2. When I look at that, that's telling me that it is 1:30. So then I'm going to look at the next one. And now my minute hand went from the 12 around to the 6 and stopped. Okay. Now the next time they're telling me to look, my minute hand moved back up to the 12, but my hour hand is on the 2, and that is showing me the time of 2 o'clock. So when I look at that pattern, I'm noticing that the minute hand has stopped halfway around each time. So this is showing me a half-hour pattern. So you can go ahead and draw your lines so you can see that which clock you're showing an hour pattern and which one are showing a half-hour pattern. All right, let's do a little bit more. Let's go to our next page then. So we have our time, it's down here. We have a 10 o'clock. This shows me the digital time of 11 o'clock. And this shows me the digital time of 12 o'clock. So we can go ahead and fill in our hours right here because we know they're the o'clock. When I look at that, I know that my minute isn't changing. My minutes are showing me that it's going completely around the clock and stopping at the same minute each time, but my hour's changing. So this pattern is an hour. So go ahead and circle the hour for that pattern. Let's look down at number 4. We have 3 clocks they're showing us. The first one, I noticed that the minute hand is on the 12. Well, you know that's an o'clock time. My hour hand is on the 3, so it's 3 o'clock. Now I'm going to look again. My minute hand went around and stopped on the 6. When it stops on the 6, it's halfway around. It's 30 minutes past. 30 minutes past what hour? It's between the 3 and the 4. It's 30 minutes after 3 o'clock, so it's 3:30. It's 3:30. Now, I wonder what I should do to make it o'clock. So if I want something to be o'clock, I'm going to draw my minute hand right up to the 12 to make o'clock. But if I was at 3 o'clock, and then I went around and stopped at 3:30, the next time, if I'm following that pattern, because it looks like we're stopping halfway around each time. So I went o'clock, 30, back to o'clock. My next time I should have then going to the 4 to show that it is 4 o'clock. I've gone from o'clock 30 back to o'clock. My hour hand moved from 3 to 3:30 over to the 4. It's showing a half-hour pattern. For number 5, Hallie has art class at 9 o'clock. She has history class at 10 o'clock. If the pattern continues, when is Hallie's next class? So let's take a look. Class is 9 o'clock. Her next class is 10 o'clock. The question asks, the pattern continues. Art was at 9, history was at 10. What time do you think her next class is going to be? That's what they're asking us. If I were to guess, I was here at 9 o'clock for art, 10 o'clock for history. My next guess would be then an hour later would be 11 o'clock for her next class. So Hallie's next class would be at 11 o'clock. For number 6, how is a half-hour pattern different than an hour pattern? Well, a half-hour pattern is different because a half hour is 30 minutes, where an hour pattern is 60 minutes. So that's the difference between a half-hour pattern than an hour pattern. There's 30 minutes between each half-hour pattern and 60 minutes between each hour pattern. So it's really important that we know that there's 30 minutes in a half hour and 60 minutes in an hour. So let's take a look then at the next page, because I am going to have you continue working on these next 2 pages. So if you're looking right next door to where you are on page 575, there's a little bit of those pattern clocks we talked about in the beginning of the lesson that showed the 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30 time that show these clocks are a half-hour pattern. The 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock time show the clock pattern of an hour pattern. So I want you to take what we just talked about and see if you can complete these next 2 pages. Taking a look at numbers 1, 2, and 3, which time pattern matches these 2 clocks? Your analog clock, is it showing a half-hour time pattern or an hour time pattern? And then your digital clocks for number 2, is it a half-hour pattern or is it an hour pattern? And then for number 3, all you need to do is complete the pattern. It says 3 o'clock, then it says 3, but it doesn't tell me how many minutes. But now it tells me o'clock, but it doesn't tell me the hour. What do you think would be the right way to complete that pattern if we're looking at that one? So I'm going to leave you to do page 575 and 576 on your own. So when you go ahead and do those next 2 pages, so on page 576, you're going to complete each time pattern, then circle the type of pattern. Don't forget to put your hands on this analog clock. They're kind of helping us out. And then fill in the digital time for number 2, and then circle half hour or hour pattern. What are they showing? What are they asking? What is it showing us? And then for number 3, complete the problem solving on Ella, who paints a picture every half hour, and Jillian paints a picture every hour. Who do you think spends more time painting 3 pictures? So see if you can figure out. It's a little bit of a hot problem. See if we can figure out our answer to that one. And then go ahead and answer number 4. Tell how the minutes are different in a half hour and an hour pattern. I want to see if you were listening to the information I gave at the beginning of our lesson. If you have any questions at all, you can email me and I can try to help explain it more if mom and dad are confused. You can also take a picture of those last 2 pages that I'm leaving you to do on your own, page 575 and 576, and send it my way just so I can see how well you did on it. Have fun, guys.